Hi, everybody, and welcome to this Work-Life Integration Essentials webinar. We are more than happy to welcoming you. We are live from Brussels, and I am Zoltán Vodkerti, one of the co-founders of the Work-Life Hub.
Hi, everyone. I'm Agnes Uherecki, and we are live and here in person, just behind the slides, and you will have a chance to see us for the question and answer sessions at the end of the webinar.
But before we kick off, let's do a short housekeeping. Firstly, we hope that the technology works for everyone, and please let us know if not, and we will try to fix it. You can ask questions, and we will try to answer all of them at the end of our presentation. We would like to kindly ask you not to use the request the floor option because it may drop your connection occasionally. So the webinar recording will be available very soon, and we will send you the link. So please do not hesitate to share it with your colleagues or with your friends later. We have already also the first webinar recording available on YouTube, so you can also check that out. Please switch off all your devices so that you can get the best experience out of this webinar. For additional resources, check out our website, sign up for our newsletter, or read one of our blog posts, or listen to our weekly podcast episodes. But you can also download our white papers or our case studies.
As you may have seen, we have directly launched a 3-part webinar series because all the information that we wanted to share with you didn't fit into a single webinar. And just to recap for some of you who are new to this second webinar, the 3 webinars are made of building blocks. So it's not 3 times the same, but one will build on the other. And we designed every webinar to address certain challenges and also to provide actionable takeaways for you. In our first webinar, Work-Life Integration Management Basics, we addressed the key trends affecting the world of work, some of the systems involved in creating work-life integration, as well as the importance and the 6 steps to prepare the business case. The recording of this webinar is available on our YouTube channel. In today's webinar, Work-Life Integration Management Essentials, we will cover the principles and values, work-life integration management tools, and we will have a question and answers session.
So we will be presenting for 20 to 25 minutes, and we will have plenty of time for question and discussion. So again, thank you to all of you who have filled out our pre-webinar survey. It was really super helpful when we were preparing for the second webinar and also for the first webinar. So hopefully we will be tackling your questions. If not, please do not hesitate to ask them in that chat box at the end of the presentation. You can also get in touch with us afterwards via email or Twitter. We will be happy to hear from you. In the third and last webinar on the 5th of April, we will address key KPIs, metrics, and the importance to measure before, after, and progress to ensure sustainability.
So coming to the content and the focus of this webinar, it was when we were preparing for presenting to you the tools and the policies, it's rather a big challenge because this is such a huge bag to fish from, and there's not a great deal of standardization globally. So some companies view strictly work-life integration supports in this category. So this may be just childcare or leaves or flexible work. And other companies, they put everything in this bag, from yoga classes to ironing services to massage, meditation room, carpooling, you name it. The creativity of companies to offer loads of perks and benefits is limitless. So there are a number of ways this can be organized, and this is also not very clear actually from the literature. So the simplest and I think the most used way to organize this information is by type, and this is what we will do later in this webinar. There are other exciting ways to organize this, for example, from the employee life cycle point of view. How do you, what policies and tools you have in place to attract talent, attract women, a diverse workforce, through the onboarding experience, development and learning while they're there, their progression in their careers to succession, and then their exit, basically. And also, as we discussed in the last webinar, different departments have different ways of presenting these. So, for example, even the term initiative versus policies, it can really be depending whether this is a mental health health and safety issue, or is it an HR issue. So intervention is, for example, a term that is used by health and safety interventions, mental health interventions, whereas other departments would use initiatives. All this just to explain to you that it's a huge bag and quite complicated. But ultimately, our aim here is not for organizations to create the perfect tools or the perfect policies, but to use these as a roadmap to pave the way forwards to the desired organizational culture, so that all of this is then inscribed into the DNA of the company, the employer, and that it becomes sustainable. And why we stress sustainable? Because we've seen it over and over again, that if there's a change of management, out with the old, in with the new, and some very valued policies and practices have been just abolished or changed. Now, just the last sentence on this slide, that we also believe that there need to be some underlying principles that govern these policies, and these are transparency, fairness, non-discrimination, among more also, because what we want to make sure is that these are accessible to everyone, not just a certain population in the workforce, that it's not just hush-hush individual accommodations, but really for employees to be aware of their rights and possibilities, and not be afraid to ask for them, to request them, in fear of being stigmatized.
So let's look at more concretely how to achieve this work-life integration tools. So usually work-life tools are being applied to achieve the goals of a well-designed work-life strategy. But before we go into more details about the tools, we wanted to quickly address what is basically a work-life strategy. Work-life strategy refers to the combination of the business case as well as measures and initiatives that organizations put in place to enable their employees to better manage responsibilities at work alongside their personal and family needs. Basically, they are a plan of actions designed to achieve a long-term overall aim. This should be basic lesson number one. We will be not going into too much details due to the lack of time, but you'll be able to find lots of sources and plenty of information and reference on our website on how to start designing and putting together a work-life strategy. Though here we wanted to swiftly underline that through the designing of work-life strategies, we meet usually, and in the literature, we meet two approaches. The wide approach, where employment, social, and family policies implemented by governments or authorities are taken into account. And the second one is the narrow approach, which focuses on steps taken by employers only. I'm pretty sure plenty of you would be able to give us or tell us examples, but in particular, we see the narrow approach in the US and other countries as well, and the wide approach in European countries, where the state plays a large role in ensuring the third pillar of the triple agenda through family and social policies, public services, but also financial incentives. The tools applied in both approaches may be broken down into three main groups, and this is the last point on our slide. And they are work organization and time arrangement, leave policies, for example, family leave, maternity leave, carers leave, or paternity leave, or we can also include in this list the career break. And the last one is benefits and services.
Naturally, these tools should be adapted to the given conditions. we are very adamant in always stressing that work-life integration is not a one-size-fits-all exercise. Every company is different. You can have in the same country, in the same city, in the same street, two companies right next to each other, and they will have totally different tools and policies because that's what works for them. So it often happens that a number of different tools, or more of a combination of different tools, are applied. Um, at the same time, we also have to stress what we have also said before, that just a work-life strategy alone is not enough to bring about real change and meet this triple agenda of work-life integration, which enhances business effectiveness, a fairer society, and ensures employee well-being. But it has to be embedded in a supportive organizational culture, one that fosters trust and transparency, to ensure the take up of these tools. I mean, we see so many cases where there's a flexible working initiative, and then just 5% of the workforce is picking it up. So we believe that work-life integration tools must be shaped and designed in a way that are based on collaboration, reflection, participation, or the provision of necessary supportive measures, and not only a top-down implementation, which is an idea from a manager, someone who decides, I want to help my workforce to be more healthy, so I will distribute everybody a gym pass, or we will just have a meditation room or yoga class, or leave at 5 p.m. on Friday. These are really measures that try to continue this 20th, 19th century factory model of one size fits all, but unfortunately this does not work in this case. And here we also at the Work Life Hub, we really believe that every work-life tool should respect the differences, the experience and skills and diversity that each person brings to the workplace. And this is really important, and we call this the allowing employees to bring their whole selves to work. That they're not afraid to be stigmatized, demoted, be subjected to sarcastic comments, and sometimes in the worst cases, being fired. Now over to Zoltán to take you through a very exciting real-life case study.
Indeed, it's super exciting. So among the myriad of work-life initiatives, we wanted to highlight to you one of the most famous visionary long-term programs we have ever come across. The Fuji Xerox New Workway Management Innovation Initiative. It might be difficult to pronounce it, but this is a classical case and has been studied, assessed extensively over the years, which gives its real true legitimacy. The program was launched in 1988 in the US and has aimed to provide working environment that allows employees to successfully combine work and family life. Its essence was, and still it is, to promote employee awareness that will transform working styles in a way that elevates employee morale, resulting in enhanced organizational productivity. It also aimed at the same time to retain and promote women at the workplace. The program followed the steps of building a classic work-life integration strategy, and this is on the slide as well, but this is really core. If I said this is my previous mention was about work-life strategy, lesson number 1, this is basically lesson 1.01. So the program, because it's so core, so essential, that we also use this sort of formula when we work with companies. So it includes identifying business needs and work practices, keeping the twin goals in focus. Number 3 is developing innovative solutions through collaboration, rolling out the program and engaging with resistance, which is really important. Then the last one is evaluation and then later feedback. So right after its start, the initiative introduced a childcare leave system and later a family nursing care system. On the slide, you can see the adapted system for supporting the nursing care of family members. The system includes various tools such as home-based work, care leave, and paid leave. So, as I said at the beginning, a number of researchers studied the program and found that rethinking workplace practices can achieve fundamental change and the twin goals of organizational performance and employee work-life integration.
So what are some of the considerable key factors that need to be taken into account when you design your policies and tools? We wanted to address some of these because there is so many, just as we said, so many tools and so many policies to choose from, that these organizing factors help you to narrow them down. So as we, from experience, we know that work-life integration issues vary from organization to organization, and these optimal mix are influenced by the following factors: the nature of the business, the size, the style, the culture of the organization, characteristics of the workforce. And just to let me point out here, quite often we get the remark that work-life integration, work-life balance works great for knowledge workers or service workers, those who work with their computers at home or from the office, but it cannot work for hospitals, it cannot work for manufacturing, it cannot work for retail. And just to give you a very quick example that it does work. So, for example, Sainsbury's, supermarket chain in the UK, they had issues which was reflected to them from the customers. So a business problem, the customers complained that there was no more fresh bread in the afternoons or in the evenings. So lots of people came out from their offices and wanted to go into the supermarket and buy some bread, but there was no bread left. So they have then looked at their teams and given much more autonomy to the bakery, the fresh goods bakery team, to organize their own schedules or self-rostering, as it's also called. And it turned out that, I love this example because it turned out that what worked for employees worked for the customers. Because once the employees started discussing among themselves, who needs to come early, who needs to come later, they were able to spread themselves out during the day and also ensure that there was fresh bread. So you can see from the sides the other considerable factors. I'm not going to go through them.
Right, you should be carefully consider the implications of any tools you will select or you might select. The option needs to be right for those using it, and it also has to work for their colleagues and the organization as a whole. When deciding the order in which to implement your options, we propose to you to consider the following key points: the visibility and communication, how to raise the profile for work-life integration issues in your organization, urgency, which pressing issues or problem needs quick fixing, early successes, to show what is possible and to build confidence, build up great buying, available resources. If resources are limited, you may need to start with the least resource intensive programs first. Then building the skills. If this is a new territory, start with simple steps and more conservative options. The last point is available enthusiasm. If a particular department or team in your organization is keen to take the lead, don't hold them back. You may want to start by addressing their particular issues on the first point. For example, and let's have another example here. Let's take a look at flexible work, which is one of the most widespread measures within organizations. We also practice this at the Work Life Hub, which we believe many organizations still get really wrong. For it to work, 3 different perspectives need to be taken into consideration. For the individual, for instance, in the case of home-based working, the following must be taken into account: the type of work they do, their personal style of working, or their home environment. For the team, the second perspective, colleagues with the team member working from home must still be able to access shared equipment, information, and resources, or have an ongoing communication and collaboration with their peers, enjoy equitable spread of the workload. The third perspective is the perspective of the organization itself. So with staff working from home, organization should need to ensure adequate coverage of the work, minimal disruptions to clients, the security of information and equipment, effective ways of managing and measuring performance, good two-way communication with the staff, and workplace health, and also consider safety requirements.
This is actually one of the issues. So flexible work is one of the issues that line managers that we hear most often about, and because flexible work, due to our technology and computers and cloud technologies and internet at home, seems to be a logical and quite an easy thing to do, teleworking and home-based working. But this is the one that line managers have a really hard time managing, because they have to manage a remote and spread out team. So often they come to the office and there's nobody there, and they cannot be reached, or the different members of the team that work together on one project, they may be working from home on different days. And that's what we said about top-down approach. Sometimes we see very rigid flexible work or telework. This is a contradiction in itself, policy where because it's not based totally on trust, they make these individual teleworking or flexible working contracts with employees, and the best way the companies or organizations see how to do this is to fix a day. So someone would be able to work from home every Monday, and then somebody else every Wednesday. And if they would need to change those days, either because that would work better for the team and for the organization, or either because it's a personal issue in their families, whatever, then it's difficult. They have to get a permission. And so sometimes rules are important, but policies make it even harder. And also, if you have a lot of people, a lot of members of your team who regularly work from home, then you also need to rethink what you're using the office for. The office then becomes more of a place of the collaboration and not so much a place of work. And then the office layout and the way workplace is designed need to reflect this evolution. And there's still a number of taboos or misconceptions around working from home and flexible working. And usually the rules of engagement, they haven't been clearly discussed or agreed upon. So that's when employees would, when they work from home, they would be sending emails copied to everybody, or they would need to do some kind of pseudo work to show that they're actually working. And this causes a lot of uncomfortable conversations and frustration to line managers. And so for line managers, flexible working may not be an overall completely positive experience.
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, however, we believe that solutions can be found for most problems, particularly if they are anticipated and addressed when the work-life tools are being designed. So if they can't be solved, the particular option may not be appropriate for your company or for your organization.
So we thought that to help you advance on this, either because you work with your own clients or because this is something you would like to take further in your own organization, the best is to ask a couple of questions to yourself and your team members to assess current tools and policies and find ways to improve them.
Yeah, and the first question is, are your current policies and tools known to employees? This question may surprise you, but we find in quite many organizations that there is a misunderstanding between the levels about available options for flexible work.
Then one key element, and we touched upon this a couple of times now, what is the take-up of the current supports of the policies? Who are the users? And let me just give a very quick example.
Yes, do that.
We know of job sharing initiatives, for example, which can be great for anybody, basically. But and one organization found in particularly that they wanted to still retain senior talent, senior workers or managers who were basically grandfathers. I'm talking about men here, and for whom job sharing could have been a great opportunity to still stick around in the workforce, share their knowledge, share their experience with the new colleagues and the teams, but also they just simply wanted to also be good grandfathers and take care of their grandchildren. But because there's still this misconception around job sharing, that it's two part-time jobs combined into one, they associated the part-time job as something bad quality work and only for women, so the take-up was very low.
The next question is, what do employees need? Many managers are afraid to ask this question, we find. Firstly, there are ways of asking this question. Secondly, it doesn't mean that all of their wishes will be granted. Employees will understand the restrictions, but the fact that they were asked and empowered to have control over their working conditions has its own benefits of enhancing trust and engagement. And the last question is there a gap between needs and current offer? So basically, these are the questions which you can use to embark on assessing your current work-life policies within your company or within your organizations, or also just some of the questions you can ask from yourselves, from your peers, from your closest colleagues. So you can start collecting information on what are the used or not used work-life integration policies or work-life policies available, or what are the factors that are restricting those policies or programs to be put in place or to be used.
Now, are we wondering if you have any questions yourself? Perhaps we also would like to know from you, if you would like to share, what are your current policies and tools? What needs do they solve for the employees or for the company? And how are they communicated?
Yes, so we try to show us and get back to the live session. So hi again, this is Zoltan and I'm just perfecting my tie, and hopefully you have found the presentation and all the information we have collected for you interesting and useful. So please let us know if you have questions or if you have any comments you'd like to ask from us. There is usually 20 or 30 seconds of delay from the live session and between the live session and the screening that you are seeing.
And while we maybe wait for a question, I also wanted to say one thing that we wanted to say, but I left out on one of the slides, and that's about the frequency with which organization may change their policies. So Zoltan explained in the beginning that you need to have a work-life strategy, and the policies that you select carefully through collaboration, through investigation, need to be really well thought through before they are maybe started in one unit of a company and one department, and then rolled out and through the entire organization if they work. Because we see often that in organizations there's a jumping back and forth between policies and tools, and that means that employees become a little bit mistrustful and they get wary of these because they believe that this is just, if there's a new policy, that's just another perk of the month, a flavor of the month, and I'm not going to bother investigating how this would benefit me because probably it will be canceled and there's going to be a new thing. So that's why consistency and sustainability are quite important. It shows a kind of respect and really thought through of adjusted to the needs of the company and the employees.
Yes, and as a reminder and the summary, just to explain that we started off with the first webinar where we wanted to lay down the foundations of a new topic, work-life integration management, in which we believe that is going to take off and is going to be really important for every organization, for companies worldwide. So the goal of this webinar series is to collect information and educate you to become work-life integration manager or advocate for a position within your company. Our mission is to advocate for this position to be at least as important as CSR or diversity and inclusion relation questions. We know that this might sound a bit unrealistic at this point, but we have seen plenty of examples lately, and we have spoken to many work-life integration managers. Recently, we spoke to someone who was in 2008 at a big filmmaking company in San Francisco, already a work-life flex manager in 2008. And we try to collect all these stories together, and we try to share it with you and try to help you and support you in your journey in becoming a key person, a key professional within your companies or organizations.
So as there are no questions, we hope the webinar itself answered some that you may have had. However, please send us your feedback afterwards. That's always greatly appreciated because it's a bit of a one-way street here, this webinar. And thank you very much for joining. And we look forward to seeing you
in
at
April.
The next one. Yes.
Bye.